It gives me the option to leave.
You have a chance to leave now.
I have the power.
You have the power. Hey guys, welcome back. It's night 2, part 2 of E3 2021, the digital E3, Geekdom Gamescast. Travis Moody, your host. Mike is probably still in traffic and probably will be for the next 2 hours. So we got some East Coast GHGers from geekshavegame.com. So we had to do the show a little earlier. So sorry, Mike will have to get his overall E3 thoughts next week on a big show. We'll talk best of E3 2021 next week overall, our top games, top shows, and then we'll talk the best of just games for the year. And then, but let's talk about what's best of show for today. It's undoubtedly has to be Nintendo Direct's Metroid Dread, I think. But before that, Dee and Felipe, welcome to the show. We'll start with Felipe. I worked with you on a show not too recently, and we talked a lot of weeb shit. So that's kind of the focus here today. We're going to do Nintendo, Square Enix, and then Dee and I will talk a little bit of Ratchet and Clank, but we'll deep dive into that next week. So Felipe, Metroid Dread, both of us weren't as ecstatic about it upon announcement, but after seeing the Treehouse Live footage, which went on for a good 20 minutes or so, what's your thoughts on Dread now?
I actually really liked Fusion. It actually is one of the Metroids that I enjoyed the most, maybe even so than the Primes, which a lot of people are surprised to hear. So I'm looking forward to it. For some reason, even though I love Fusion, it just, something about it didn't spark excitement in me. I don't know if it's because there's so many other things that cause more excitement for me already. Like, you know, my love for Forza Horizon 5, that blew my mind. Maybe if that hadn't happened, I would be losing my mind over this. Yeah, like, I'm interested, but I'm not excited, basically. Like, I'm sure I'll get it at some point, but it's not really pre-order for me. It's not a priority.
Yeah, I went crazy on a pre-order. I actually spent $90 on one after being like, this looks like a mobile game.
Oh, nice. You snagged it. Those are hard to get now.
Yeah. So after Best Buy, Target, Amazon, the whole way, even Amazon. I don't even think Amazon even went up. It just got botted straight through. But GameStop, that was the easier one to get. Usually the pre-orders, judging from the action figure world, they're up there a lot longer than the other websites. So less bot efficient. So it was a little easier to snag. It's kind of funny that I snagged this though, because I saw the 2-minute trailer and I was like, I don't know, what was this? But Dee, what's your thoughts? Did you see the deep developer gameplay session in the Treehouse as well for Metro?
No, I didn't, but I was pretty much sold from what they showed in the Direct because I like the 2D Metroid games, and I most recently played Samus Returns, which was only on the 3DS, and it kind of gave me that like urge to play a 2D Metroid game, so this kind of like fit that. Plus, I was talking to my partner earlier, and it really shows that Nintendo just doesn't let go of projects. Like, they stuck it through because they've been talking about this game for a really, really long time. So to see it finally coming, it was really exciting. And Samus looks dope. You know what I mean? That's all I need to see is baby girl with a cool looking suit, and I'm good to go.
So it's the return of Mercury Steam, actually, from Samus Returns. 19 years, the first 2D Metroid. I almost forgot how important the 2D Metroid world was, and it's like, yeah, it's the most important world of Metroid. It's been so long. I just remember Prime pretty much. It's just been forever. And I didn't have a 3DS, so I missed out on some of that stuff. So, but
and in your defense, it's very easy to be disappointed when you want the new Prime so bad, and then instead you get this, so I understand the disappointment for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I got attacked in the group today. Well deserved. But at the end of the day, I still spent my money and got the art book and steelbook and whatnot. But this is supposed to, Dread is supposed to end this story arc. Hilarious that it took all this time to do. But getting into some of the details, they dug into like these new robot AI enemies, and they kind of hound you and they haunt you and they follow you. The EMMIs, MEs, I guess. These just, they kind of detect your sound, so you're gonna rely on more stealth stuff. And then there's that Felipe, that Phantom Cloak camo, and you want to talk about some of the details you saw today?
I like it because I know it's completely different genres, but that vibe, it kind of reminded me of um, the latest Alien game.
Ooh. Alien
I'm forgetting the name,
Isolation.
but yes, yeah.
Oh,
Like having to always run away from them instead of engaging and being that scared of them. Like I did love that little aspect. And the fact that I think it's one of the few times where we see her, not kicking ass. Like she had to be running away, using the camo, like basically do not engage at any cost. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
And even worse, that Phantom Cloak is timed. And then even
Yeah.
worse, if you don't get rid of it, it depletes your health. So
Okay.
on top of this thing chasing you around, I guess, there's kind of like different computer lab setups. If you can get to them, you get like an Omega cannon, and those can actually just straight up one-on-one defeat the enemy. But otherwise, they're bringing back stuff from, Samus Returns, like you mentioned. The free aim laser sights and the melee counters and stuff like that. So that's cool. And there's some new stuff too. There's a melee dash. You can actually slide now without having to get in the morph ball. So that's new. And then the coolest one I thought of all was that spider magnet. So it's exactly what it sounds like, just clinging to walls. And that, I think, gonna need that, right? So I don't know. Did you guys so Felipe, you didn't pre-order this. D, did you get in?
I'm waiting to snag the collector's edition, but it's out of stock, unfortunately.
Yeah, I never do. The bots got it, but this one I had to. And my reasoning is if I love it, I keep it. And if I beat the game and don't want it, I'm going to get my money back because it's so hard to get. Whereas if
Absolutely.
you buy the $60 game, you trade it in a GameStop, you get $20. Maybe you can sell it on Makar if you beat it really fast and get 40. But if you buy the $90 edition, you're probably going to get your $90 back. Maybe more. I'm not going to suggest that, but you probably
more.
It's always good if you can. If something's hot like that, it's Wario 64 season, so get on that special edition grind if you can. We didn't see any special editions, but strangely, there is a pre-order at Amazon right now for Breath of the Wild 2. Felipe, that's not even the title, but it's there on Amazon, kind of like Metroid Prime 4. We didn't really see a whole lot, but from what we saw, what'd you think?
People always hate me a little bit for saying this, but I kind of don't care. Like when I first started playing Breath of the Wild, I was floored, blew me away. But then after like a few hours in, I'm like, oh, Zelda's just catching up to the rest of the video game world. I realized that it's basically incorporating a lot of the elements that every other huge world action game has. So I don't know, unless they make it feel a bit more like old Zelda, if that makes sense.
Well, it feels like Skyward Sword from the minute and 20 seconds we saw. D, do you hate Felipe right now for?
No, I let people live their best lives. If if it doesn't do it for you, you do you. I agree with you for the most part that it definitely does take elements from previous games and brings it and modernizes the Zelda franchise. But I do feel like one thing that specific game, Breath of the Wild, does best is that the amount of exploration no open world game has. That you can approach any situation and the way you approach it will be different from everyone else, and I think that's an element to it that I'm looking forward to diving into again with Breath of the Wild 2. But now Breath of the Wild 2, we're like up above Hyrule Field and it's like all floaty and stuff, and the sky looks incredible, like somehow more incredible than the sky in the first Breath of the Wild. So I'm definitely excited, and it's just like a really zen experience for me. So yeah, I'm on board, obviously.
And Link has a mullet now, so just let those locks flow. I pre-ordered the regular edition for this, just because I don't know why not. It's Amazon, you can cancel whenever you want. I still have not even beat Breath of the Wild yet, just because I got to an area where my weapons just kept breaking, my swords, and I ran out of arrows. And I don't know what to do. So maybe this will inspire me with this pre-order to go back and finish it. I do think, from what I played, it's the most overrated game of all time. That saying, I think it's a great game, but I think like people, it's like a 20 out of 10 for most people, and I don't know. I need to play more, I guess. I think
it also tugs at heartstrings. People definitely see it through rose-colored glasses more so than they should. for sure.
Nailed it. This is a series that could do that as well. Shin Megami Tensei 5, obviously the precursor to Persona, right? So Felipe, your thoughts on what we saw? I thought this was, I'll just say this, I thought this was the best trailer that they had in the Switch up until, you know, I got kind of, until they really deep dived into Metroid Dread. This was my favorite thing of the show.
The last Shin Megami I played was 3 on 3DS. So it's been a while. I'm not going to play the remaster that they just did because it's like a cash grab, and having Dante as a pre-order bonus was bullshit. But this 5 has me excited, and that is the title, well, one of the few that I'm going to have pre-ordered. That one has me excited for sure.
Yeah, and did pre-orders even go up for this one? I didn't see it.
I don't think so, but that's the one I'm waiting for.
Awesome. I knew that was up your alley. Dee, any thoughts on Shin Megami?
Listen, there's only so many long JRPGs that I can handle in my life right now with all the video games that are out, and the last heavy one was Persona 5. So I think I'm gonna stick to Persona for now. I mean, I finished it, but like I think I'm gonna have a long break. So if I do jump into the Shin Megami Tensei series, it's gonna be for a very long time because those games are very long, and I think Shin Megami is harder than Persona, so you're gonna spend more time in that game. I am ready.
It looked far more dense and less accessible when they showed the Treehouse Live, but it does look awesome, and
It does look good.
That's what we can say about it so far. A game that looks really fun, totally accessible. Michelle Kisner's probably, shout out to her. She couldn't be on the show. She's on vacation, but probably her favorite game. I'll just speak for her on behalf. But WarioWare, get it together, Felipe. Come on, man. What's up with WarioWare? Talk about
it. This is funny because I've played nearly all the WarioWares and I've enjoyed them, but I can't say I've ever owned a WarioWare.
Yeah, so me either.
This might be the first time that changes. Like I do enjoy them, and this one, I don't know. Like this might be the first time I own one. Like it looks great, and I think I might be down for the first time. I might actually buy WarioWare.
Oh, okay. Because your demeanor, you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm gonna buy it. I'm like, okay, you had me right there with the twist. D, WarioWare, anything?
That shit looks trippy as hell. I won't buy it, but it's definitely something that I wouldn't mind diving into here and there. I know I'm gonna be able to play it, but it won't be my game. I'm just gonna jump in like here and there to play it. It looks like a badass trip.
Yeah, I'll admit it. I've never played a WarioWare game. I mean, I'm familiar with the character from way back Dr. Wario games back in the day and stuff. But and of course, you know, Smash. But I had to get it because I got, you know, a barcade set up. It's a party game. It's co-op, you know, it's 2 players. So that's like a game you can kind of just pick up and play. They have micro games, they call them. And there actually is a story mode according to, you know, we watched the Treehouse, and there is like, you know, a whole little campaign. So maybe it's something to do when I'm on set and they're not using me. So it seems a pick up and play fun little game in between all these heavy ass JRPGs and Metroidvanias. Felipe, you like Smash Brothers Ultimate. What do you think of Tekken's Kazuya edition? Oh, I think we lost you on the free. Wait. Oh no, there you go.
All right. Bit disappointed just because I really wanted Doom Guy, just so we had, you know, Doom Guy and Isabelle, you know, in 3D and in the game. And Kazuya, I understand he's basically their Ryu, but I feel there's already characters that have surpassed his popularity. Like his son, Jin, I fully would have expected him. So interesting pick. I don't know. Like his trailer was awesome. He looks like he plays well. I'm just not sure he's a person, you know, he was the best pick, but I look forward to checking him out. And I do think it's cool that now there's 3 major franchises represented because there's Fatal Fury now, Street Fighter, and Tekken. So I love that aspect.
Yeah, the trifecta. But at this point, it's almost like who's willing to get into bed with Nintendo, and here it's Bandai. So that's kind of how it goes. It's like they probably pitch a lot of things, and maybe it wasn't Ubisoft, Bethesda, I should say. Sorry, at the point for Doom, but you know,
Oh,
Tekken.
and here's hoping that Tekken makes it to Switch. Who knows?
Well, you know, we got Joker in Smash, and we still don't.
Still the best, most hype Smash character ever. Whether he's good to play as or not, that presentation was just top notch.
Oh, he's good. He's good to play. But yeah, there's no Persona 5, of course, on the Switch, and people are still crying about that one. There is Strikers, however. I'm gonna do a rapid fire. There's a million games. We got to get to Square Enix, and then also Ratchet and Clank. So there's a million games here. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you get the list in front of you. I can go through it, but let's start off right here. I'm just gonna say a game, and one of you guys can just jump in. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania.
I never played it.
Don't care.
All right, moving on.
Here it's fun though.
Here's one that got a lot of talk, and I wish we almost had Kaiko on the show because Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. I watched the Treehouse Live. It kind of bored me, and it's like people say this is kind of the roots of a lot of Fire Emblem stuff, you know, the same companies and whatever. But I didn't. It looked bland. I don't know. Someone step in, save this.
Yeah, no, I don't play those games at all for the same reason, and this didn't motivate me to play it again.
Yeah. Visually, a 2D strategy game isn't going to be exciting in a presentation, but I loved Advance Wars, so I'm fully on board. It's another pre-order in my case.
Can I ask you though, does it go into as much like into characters as the Fire Emblem series? Because I think that's I think that's why I'm more attracted to that series than this one.
But no, nowhere near like that.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Just from telling from the footage, I'm like, I didn't see the correlation other than it being a turn-based strategy. Okay, Monster Hunter. Here's a couple of Capcom games. They had a presentation, but basically it was a 2-game show. Shout out to Dee. She just reviewed not too long ago Resident Evil Village. Go check it out. Full review there. We don't need to deep dive. Great game. But Capcom, other than that, talked about Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, and the Ace Attorney collection. So we saw a little bit of that here. Felipe, any thoughts quickly on Capcom?
I just can't get used to Monster Hunter on Switch, so hard pass. I am excited about
Ace Attorney.
Yes, I am excited about the detective game, so I'm getting that too.
Okay, you're getting a lot. I hope you got your penny saved. Dee,
Yeah.
Dee, you reviewed Resident Evil. How do you feel about the rest of what Capcom did at this E3?
The only thing that really excited me is that we know we're going to get DLC for Resident Evil Village. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm excited. I hope they kind of go deeper into the characters that we already met, the 4 lords. But in terms of Ace Attorney, I felt like the presentation was too long, and I think that they were really trying to get new players in. I already like detective games. Like the last one I played, which is kind of like a light detective game, is Judgment. I feel like I did like people that play those games don't really need to see the gameplay mechanics. So I think it was too long of a presentation for Ace Attorney, but I do want to get into the series. I've only played it very little bit. I don't know if I'll get it right away though. It's definitely something I'm probably gonna wait. Just trying to be picky so I can play as much as I can.
I know.
And not go broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Capcom actually had the only update for Street Fighter 5 was just some like esports stuff. It was really, I think the thing is now with everyone doing constant digital streams, pretty much almost every publisher doing these forwards and directs all year, we're not getting the whole blow away stuff at E3 anymore. You know, it's a shame because we love E3. This is our like Super Bowl, and we're hearing like, other than Nintendo, and we'll give whiskey scores in a second. Other than Nintendo and Xbox Bethesda, everyone kind of gave us half a show, you know?
Yeah, and even Ubisoft and Square Enix still had a conference style, showcase, whereas the other publishers, like, they couldn't tell the difference between a podcast or a panel or a staff meeting to a conference. And it was just really exhausting to try and keep up with everything when only really the main players that have already been there are the ones that continue to do things the way that we enjoy as gamers. You know, we're not shareholders that are trying to, you know, put stock into a product or whatever. We're here to like get hype. And I feel like even the hype moments that Xbox and Nintendo gave us were a little bit diluted because at least me personally, I was so exhausted by the time I got there.
You know what was amazing? Take-Two's like business meeting that they just showed everyone.
Yeah.
Take-Two Interactive.
I was like, what the hell is this?
Dude, I skimmed through it and all I saw was white Zoom backgrounds the entire time. We have no budget on the Gamescast, and at least we have video sprinkled through almost the whole thing. This was just people talking with a white, they all had to have the white background, and it was like a lot of heavy PR stuff going on. So no reveals from Take-Two. And then Bandai today, we were kind of like, God, I see like people I know sitting around talking like people I run into at E3 and stuff from all these other different companies, game companies and video game companies. And that's it. We didn't, what was it? Dark Pictures Anthology. And that was it. I mean,
that's it. Like they should have did what was it WB did, where it's like WB Back for Blood. So you knew they were only going to talk about Back for Blood. You should have just done Bandai Namco Dark Pictures Anthology, and that way we knew whether we should tune in or not.
Yep, total bait and switch. But from Bandai, we did see. Let's just cut in real quick. We'll return to Nintendo in a second. But Elden Ring, I actually thought, and I'm not. You're a Soulsborne player. I'm absolutely not. But I thought that their presentation was pretty kick-ass. But I'd love your opinion on it, Dee.
Oh, this was like the highlight for me, if not, in addition to Guardians of the Galaxy, Fatal Frame, and Metroid. It looked like Dark Souls, right? But with different enemy designs, which the enemy designs in these games are always top tier. And it's open world. So I'm really curious to see how a game like a Souls game is going to fit into an open world. Because like you usually in these games, they're connected worlds. So you have to find shortcuts to get to the boss, let's say, so that you don't have to go through a bunch of enemies to get to the boss. You'll have to find a shortcut. That way you just go to a bonfire, go to the boss, and then it's easier. I'm curious how that's going to work in an open world game. Like, are they going to have bonfires or whatever the bonfire system is, like sprinkled throughout the open world, and then you could kind of freely fight enemies at whatever order you want, or is it still gonna force us to fight certain bosses at a certain time, kind of like we had to in like Shadow of the Colossus, for example, where you couldn't just fight any boss whenever you wanted to. So I'm just really curious. It looks very good. The enemy designs are amazing. I'm just curious how this fits into an open world setting. So like if we face a group of enemies, because usually in Dark Souls, right, when you're walking around, if you see a group of enemies, you got to kind of lure them out into like away from like small corridors or away from like groups of enemies so you don't get overwhelmed. Whereas like if we're on a horse and we like trot into a horde of enemies, like is that same mechanic there, or will it be more forgiving for the retreat? Will the retreat be easier, kind of like how it is in Sekiro? I have so many questions, but either way, obviously I'm very excited for this game. From Software does not disappoint at all.
Awesome. You did mention Fatal Frame, Made in the Black Water, and there was also is it Danganronpa?
Danganronpa, yeah.
Danganronpa Decadence. These two games touch weeb hearts across the world today. You can talk about those real quickly. Either one of you can step in.
I'm only interested in Fatal Frame. It's been a while since we had a Fatal Frame game, and I never actually beat one, so I feel like this is going to be the opportunity because it looks so good. It's nice to see a like modern sort of Fatal Frame game.
Awesome. Felipe?
Same. I remember playing the first one. I think I played a little bit of the second one, but I don't know, it's refreshing when you see really old franchises make a comeback. So, I'll definitely check it out.
Dope.
It's probably not a day one for me, but I'm looking forward to it.
Somewhere down the line. All right, so there was a bunch of stuff that we've seen on other consoles, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, Dragon Ball Kakarot with all the DLC. That's all coming to Switch. Also, there was a Cruise and Blast. So, one of the great all-time arcade racing games, Cruis'n USA, Cruise and Blast. So we got that. And then there was a deep dive into No More Heroes 3, which actually wasn't on the direct, but then they did a Treehouse Live about 25 minutes of Travis Touchdown. So go check that. But I'll do some whiskey scores, We'll start off. D, go ahead. Your score for Nintendo Direct.
For Nintendo, I would say 4.5 out of 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an immensely high score. You kind of echo the sentiments of a lot of the games cast today. The group, Felipe, your score.
3.75. I was pleasantly surprised, but a few of the like heavy hitters personally didn't excite me as much as some of the smaller ones. Like as a whole, I know nobody gives a damn about Advance Wars, but I cared about it. So
a lot of people actually did care about it today. It was like the most talked about thing besides Metroid today on our Facebook group.
Well, in the group, yeah, but as a whole.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It doesn't have, Zelda, Mario type things. I'm gonna go 3.5. Initially I thought I was very underwhelming, but then of course, like a lot of these things, like Xbox, the next day they deep dove into Forza, they deep dove into Halo, they deep dove into Starfield a little bit. Same thing kind of happened when the Treehouse Live came on and we actually got to see 20 minutes, 10 minutes of like some of these games. I was like, WarioWare looks so cool, I'm getting it. Then it was like Metroid, which I thought was like pretty cool, looked amazing, flat out, and I ordered this expensive thing. So it kind of like, you can't even judge nowadays, like, because everything's so digital, you can't even just judge the directs and the pressers because there's kind of supplemental stuff that comes later. And I feel like, yeah, it was a strong 3.5, but compared to Nintendo, I always thought Nintendo just owned it. It was like almost a 5 or 4.5 almost every single time. They were kind of, like you said, it was Felipe, it didn't really have the high hitters. Like we had the Metroid, we had the Legend of Zelda, which was very brief. And other than that, it was a bunch of small stuff, which is kind of what Nintendo's doing. And yeah, a lot of that stuff is coming out this year besides Breath of the Wild. So that was important, unlike Xbox and Bethesda, which is the future. So there's the difference. Square Enix, will run through it real quick. D, I know you want to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, so go ahead.
This totally surprised me. As soon as I saw Star-Lord, I was like, oh shit, we're getting this game. I feel like it was rumored. I feel like I heard about it, but it's AAA as fuck. Like, I was really surprised with what I saw. The gameplay does look a little bit janky. I feel like that's gonna be maybe the low point of it, but the way that you choose dialogue, and the interactions of the characters, they feel like Guardians of the Galaxy, but them doing an original story where you're not relying on comic book stuff, you're not relying on the MCU, the Guardian movies, I feel like is the way to go. And so I'm just like 100% on board. And they showed gameplay like straight from the PS5. It was like, that's it. You saw it raw the way it was. Maybe a little long on the presentation, but it definitely, like, this is a day one buy for me and probably one of the most hype moments of this entire E3, besides Elden Ring.
Well, Felipe, they had to go high because there was no update on Outriders, no Forspoken, no Tomb Raider. There was not a lot with Square Enix, so they kind of had to deep dive into one game, and they kind of threw all their marbles with Guardians, and it looked to see pretty good. But the important thing here, no DLC, no microtransactions. This is different than Marvel's Avengers. You can only play as Star-Lord, but you can command the other Guardians and kind of tap into what they do so special. But your thoughts on this October 26th release?
There's too many games in October.
A lot.
That's a great point. Yeah. I'm a huge Marvel nerd, so
yep.
I'm probably going to end up getting it. But honestly, Star-Lord is probably the character I care the least about in the Guardians. So not being able to use the other ones is a gripe I have that I'm sure I'll have to get over. Another problem I have is the no DLC is just weird to me, because when you have a property like Marvel that you can choose from so many stories to not only just add stories, but also go into individual DLC for the other characters, it just seems like a huge oversight. And another thing they already stated, which blew my mind, is that it doesn't share a universe with the Avengers game. That I'm like, how do you have two Marvel properties under your umbrella and not connect them?
Well, I think the answer there is, well, Eidos Montreal wants to do a one and done because probably another developer is already working on another. It seems like Square Enix and Marvel have a thing going on. So there could be a whole nother world, and we'll have to speculate on that, what that could be, coming in as soon as Guardians is done. And I think Avengers is going to be the live game that they're just going to keep supporting until it really rots. And I mean, we saw Black Panther: World of Wakanda, and I thought that looked pretty cool. And I'm glad they're still supporting this game. I went back and beat it, and now on PS5, and I think it looks pretty good on the PS5, and it ran really well. It just took a while for Avengers to get going, but the two different
it's
two different
a
things.
good beat 'em up, but
Mhm.
it's true that they just haven't added, like, it needs more enemy variety types, more in-world bosses and stuff. Like it's a good base, but they just haven't developed it as much as they should.
Yeah, Dee, do you think we're gonna see more worlds with Marvel and Square Enix? It kind of seems that way.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so, actually, because if Guardians is good, I hope so. Let me well, actually, no, because Marvel's Avengers story was good. So if they keep doing these like story-focused Marvel games, I think it'll be good. And to stick with the live service with what they have and kind of build on that and make it better. But no more live service Marvel's games.
Yeah.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance if we must, because that game was great. But other than that, we can leave that kind of gameplay alone.
Right. This almost seems like an answer to what Marvel's Avengers, like kind of like the hate they got right away. So this kind of seemed to kind of answer everyone's kind of issues with, oh no, microtransactions, kind of, all that kind of thing. And the other thing is Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, two different developers. So that may be the reason why we're not getting continuity. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be the thing. But we got a lot more to talk about. So we're going to take a break because I forgot to sign in the pro. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we'll do this all over again. We'll finish up with Final Fantasy and whatnot. We'll stay tuned more from the Geekdom Gamescast.
Once a year, gaming stops playing and gets down to business. G4, the official broadcaster of E3, brings it all to you.
That's the game I want to play.
The new consoles, new games, and new ways to play.
All the games straight to you.
It's a week-long television event. E3 2012 Live starts Monday at 3, only on G4.
All right, welcome back. Geekdom Gamescast, more E3 to talk about. And we mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy. That's also from Square Enix. That's also going to be on Nintendo Switch. So that was announced during the Direct. And another game from Square Enix that's going to be on Nintendo Direct is the Life is Strange Remastered Collection. I'm not sure about True Colors, the new one, but the Remastered Collection is going to be on Switch as well. So that's our wrap up on the Nintendo, but there's a game that Dee and I got to play this morning. I played really early this morning, like 7. It actually worked. Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin from Team Ninja. We didn't expect this to be the Final Fantasy announcement. We expected a lot of other things like Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy Remake Part 2, since Intergrade just came out, and then we got that pixel remaster thing that had a lot of people screaming about Steam and mobile. So Dee, what do you think about what Square Enix did with Final Fantasy this year on this Presents?
In terms of a presentation, okay. Dark Souls mixed with Final Fantasy sounds like you can't go wrong there, right? It just sounds like two worlds that just fit, kind of like Elden Ring with what's that popular show that I'm sorry I don't watch it that everyone watches. Oh my god, what is it? Yeah, Game of Thrones with Dark Souls. It's like a good combination. So, but then when I saw it at the presentation, I was like, this doesn't really look that good. It looks more like Devil May Cry than Dark Souls, which isn't a bad thing. Like Devil May Cry is a great game, but like it just was a little different than what I expected. But then, and we'll get into what I played in the demo. I will say the demo kind of modified those thoughts again. Mm-hmm. But damn, what a burn that the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 is just on Steam and mobile. Like, what the heck? How could you do that? That's like a slap in the wrist.
They don't want the Switch money, I guess. Felipe, what are your thoughts on this? Because I guess, in Japan, everyone plays mobile. They're always on the trains. That's kind of the way of life there. It's not so heavily console based, but a Switch is mobile. I mean, why isn't this? What's the issue here?
I'm honestly I fully understand everyone's rage. It's bullshit. If you're porting it over to Steam and mobile, I don't see how hard it is to just make it on Switch also. Put it out on all consoles for that matter.
make more
Yeah,
money.
there's literally no reason to not have it across the board, and they can just open their pockets and the money's gonna flow in. But no, they're like, fuck that. We're not gonna do that. I
It's
don't
because
get it.
they need the capabilities of a Switch Pro to put these pixelated Final Fantasy games on there. So
Well,
True,
then if
true. I
that was
mean,
the case, they should have put it on PlayStation or Xbox.
no, yeah, totally joking. I mean, we got the Game Boy Advance stuff on there, so the Legend series. So that's kind of, yeah, it was a strange choice. But just getting back, and Felipe, again, you didn't play the trial today, right, of Stranger of Paradise, and it didn't work yesterday, so it worked overnight, I guess. But D, just getting back into it, and so it's Devil May Dark Fantasy, right? So it's a little bit of Dark Souls, a little bit of Devil May Cry, but it's not so hack and slash. It's kind of a good mesh, right? It's pretty heavy, but complicated, but still kind of a lot of power.
There's a lot of timing, but it does feel more hack and slash and quick than like Dark Souls games, which
Oh,
is more
yeah.
like slow and methodical.
It's definitely
Uh,
more up my alley, but there is a challenge. There's very dense control mapping there. It's not just button mashing. There's a lot of like hold down the right bumper to press the left bumper, but then release that right. There's a lot of complicated controlling there.
Yeah, this game actually feels more like Code Vein than anything else, which is a Souls-like game, and I definitely do see the Souls influence in the Stranger of Paradise game. But it so here's the thing that bothers me about it: you have a block button, but then you have another block button that does something different. Why? It just, and that other block button is so OP because you can literally take items and throw it back at your enemies, or you can like you're building up your MP bar. So it's like, why would I use the other block button if this one exists? And that one's mapped to circle instead of, well, I'm playing on the PlayStation, so well, it's only available on PlayStation 5,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's mapped to circle instead of L1. So I'm like, oh, can I switch those buttons? Because I definitely use the other more effective block button. So it's the choices of gameplay are very confusing to me, but I like that it is very different from other Souls-like type games. It does have a lot more going on for it in terms of gameplay. So it doesn't feel like a Souls clone. It doesn't feel like a Neo clone. It doesn't feel like a Code Vein clone. It
Right.
just has those elements in it.
You absolutely cannot just smash buttons on this. I tried, but you can. That I actually thought the more effective block button was just the regular one to parry, because the O one, you really had to get the timing down to catch certain items, and also it was complicated because it was like kept telling me to press the O button, but then when I did it, it was hard to tell whether I blocked or evaded or got smashed. The effect on the left, you hear the clang because it's obviously like your shield or your gauntlet sword. But then on the O, you're kind of just sticking out your right hand, and it kind of doesn't feel like you're blocking. But then I look at my health bar and nothing was going away. So I was like, it's working, but I can't. Maybe they can kind of tinker that a little bit, because it felt like I was getting smashed, but then it showed the health bar. So it was effective, but it didn't come off that way aesthetically.
The feedback wasn't very good, and it was very unpolished. You can tell it's very unpolished. And you can't tell when you're actually blocking until you see that you're not losing your health. And the bad camera angles on top of it, and all the flashiness that's happening, like you got fire and explosions and ice and all this stuff all over the place, that's just really hard to see what you're doing. Whereas in like Souls games that I really like, everything's so clean. Like, you know, when you miss the shot, you know what you're getting hit by, you know what mistakes you made. Whereas in this game, there's so much going on at one time that I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna do that special like L1 R1 or L1 circle ability that just like bashes all the enemies around me, and just keep spamming that as much as I can until I build my magic points again.
Yeah, at least that there's like a pretty cool skill tree there with like kind of, improving abilities and the stamina, health, customizing like the different button commands, as you mentioned, some of the more complicated ones. But it was fairly easy to pick up weapons, and I do love that the arsenal you get from beating enemies or the treasure, you can immediately put it on. So it's a lot of games when you find armor, it's just kind of all in text. But here you put a bandana on, and it was like, oh, he's just put it on. I was like, that was cool. I didn't expect that. But dude, the AI teammates are horrible. They're useless.
And
they just stood there. They got killed every single time.
And to heal them, you have to use your own potion. Like, come on. Why do we got to do that? Like, get your own potion. Can I give them potions like that are not mine, so that they can heal themselves?
Yeah. It's one of the few times where I wish this was actually multiplayer, or maybe is it? I don't know. Is this multiplayer game?
Yeah, I don't see how they would do multiplayer if they already have AI. Because then that would make even more of a flashy mess than it already is.
I suppose you're right, but yeah, they just as AI teammates, they just I don't know what they're doing. They just get killed by goblins and fire ghouls, and then those fire ghouls they bunch up so much that there's just like bushes filled with fire everywhere, and it's
exactly.
It was pretty crazy.
But one thing I did like about it is that you can equip two different kind of classes at the same time, whereas in Souls games, and I keep comparing it to Souls games because that's how it was marketed, you can only stick to one build, so you have to like scale for strength or scale for magic or scale for dex, whereas in this game you can have one like great sword user user build, and then with the press of a button you can go to your mage class, and that's something that I felt like was really useful in this game and fun.
That's right where I ended my trial, but I had just picked up the mage class, so I'm probably going to dig into that tomorrow morning when I wake up again. But that was a cool deep dive on Stranger of Paradise. We didn't expect that. The file was corrupted, so if you want to go back and re-download it, it should work now. The good news is
I just want to say one more thing. I'm so sorry. I don't understand why they put Chaos like as the last boss in this demo. It was
spoiler alert. No, I didn't get there.
Well, I thought maybe it was known just because Chaos was every other word out of that dude's mouth. Jack is his name, or generic name, Jack. And also, I don't feel like connected to the characters as I do in Final Fantasy games, so that's a little disappointing. They just feel like vessels of strong men, not necessarily people that I want to get to know, which is hard because right now I'm playing the Yuffie DLC. I'm like, oh my god, I love Yuffie. She's like the best. I want to be her best friend forever and ever. But these characters are like just dudes, Yeah. But yeah, the last boss, it was hard. I actually took a while to beat it. So it definitely has an unforgiving nature, but I wonder if this is like one of the harder bosses and they're just like, but there's an easy mode. So it's, you don't need to get good. You could chill out a little bit.
There is easy, normal, hard, but I don't think you could switch difficulty in the middle of your progress. I couldn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cause there was a point where I was like, all right, I really just want to kind of speed through this, see what it's about. Cause I died a few times and then I couldn't find a way unless I think I have to redo it to eat.
Oh yeah, I think that might be. I hope that's exclusive to the demo though.
Yeah.
Because I lost progress. Like I couldn't finish because the Nintendo Direct came on. So I was like, okay, let me just get rid of this, and then I had to start over as well. But I wasn't not to change the difficulty, just to like continue. And I had to redo it. So I'm hoping in the main game that you can bump down the difficulty if you want to in the middle of the game.
Yep, that would be tremendous. Felipe, sorry we went on so long about Final Fantasy Origin. I want your take on Platinum Games' Babylon's Fall. There was a little bit of polarization here because, Platinum Games, right? They got a lot of, Astro Train, Rising Revengeance, just a lot of great games. We never didn't see Scalebound, but they've got a good pedigree, and some people are kind of. I want to know what you think about Babylon's Fall.
Something about it to me just screamed generic action game. I don't know if it's character design or how the combat looks, but I don't know, something about it. I just saw the trailer and I even revisited it to see if my feelings change, but no, something about it. And also, and I mentioned this, I think, in the chat, that announcer is horrible. Like he was unintentionally hilarious. Like the way, like I'm sure they had the budget to choose someone else. I don't know. Like what do you guys think? Because for me, it did nothing.
No, I was very excited about this game, and I'm a whore for Platinum Games. Like I love Nier Automata. I love Astral Chain was one of my favorite games that year. And this just seemed extremely boring. And then what I didn't realize until after the conference is it's a live service game, which is worse. Like, how many
I didn't
successful
even
live
think of
service
that.
games do we have?
Oh no.
Not many.
Oh no. There's a reason why there's a closed beta and they want you to sign up because it's a live service game. That makes they're testing the servers.
Yeah.
Even
Oh
better.
boy. Oh man.
So it's a no-go for me, which I'm glad. Like, I don't need to have games that I want. I have enough games to play. So I'm kind of glad that I was disappointed by it. But
Yeah.
for Platinum Games, it's definitely a downfall for them, I would
Yeah.
say.
For sure. And it's like, yeah, I hope this sucks because my backlog is too long. I love that. That should be like my new thing. Every game that comes out is just one whiskey out of 5 because I need to go back and play the 30 other games. I guess supposedly and I mentioned this on part 1, it should be up there. Bethesda and Ubisoft and Xbox, our E3 coverage. That I went back and watched a lot of these trailers in 4K. And they made a tremendous difference. There was no 4K trailer for Babylon's Fall, and there should have been because supposedly the art style is brushwork, like it's like canvas-like textures for this high fantasy, and you cannot tell in a compressed 1080 live stream, as we saw. I mean, even some of the best trailers from day one, the Xbox stuff like at Halo, it didn't look that good, and when you went back and watched it on a big screen in 4K, like, holy moly. Same thing with Battlefield and some of these other games. So for a game like this, which has very specific aesthetics and art, they shouldn't have just thrown it on the even 1080 to our eyes now is like, if it's compressed and it's a live stream, we're not going to be able to really tell the quality, and they really need a 4K trailer for this game. But other than that, it's got no release date. There's a closed beta, and they're working on it. So people are going to be doing a lot of testing. So maybe, it's hard to go against Platinum Games because of that pedigree. So
listen, it's fine. Let this be your downfall, Platinum Games, and just give us Bayonetta 3, and then we'll keep moving. Everything will be fine.
I think I had that pre-ordered with Amazon for like 4 years. It just never happened. I do want to shout out, Dee, that you do have a Nier review coming soon to GHG.
Nier Replicant, yeah, sorry. It's done. I just have to make it happen, like posting it and stuff.
All right, we'll make it happen. So before we go, Felipe, what do you give Square Enix's presentation out of 5 whiskeys?
A 2. And I feel I'm being generous. Yeah, a 2.
Yeah, I would say a 2.7 just because of the Guardians deep dive. Mm-hmm. And they actually showed games, even if I don't care about them.
Yeah, they showed games, but they were missing a lot more, I think. I'm going to go, I think this is kind of like, God, this is almost the same as Ubisoft for me. It's just like, it wasn't the finished. It's like, oh, well, we can do these every month or every 3 months, and we're not live at E3 in front of a bunch of people. So we're going to show you what we feel like showing you, and that's it. So, and the thing is, there's no follow-up to this. Even looking today, there's no follow-up to the Ubisoft Forward. There's no follow-up to Square Enix Presents, where Xbox Bethesda has that thing on the 17th. So there's like the extended, like, oh, we didn't get to show you a lot of like, the other stuff. So there's these need a follow-up where Nintendo did the live, the live tree, and then Xbox did the extended. So yeah, I'll go 2.75. Same thing I gave Ubisoft, because Guardians was awesome. And then I was like, oh shit, they've already gone like 20 minutes. What else do they have?
That was the whole conference.
And yeah, it was the whole show. So before we go, we're gonna dig into that game. Big PlayStation 5 hit, because there's nothing else to talk about with Sony. They skipped the show. The 1 year they would have got their ass kicked by Xbox, they didn't show up. Felipe, I know you haven't been playing it, but I want your thoughts on Ratchet Clank in general, or Rift Apart.
It's funny because when I first saw that, like, that first reveal trailer, I was blown away. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And now that release date came around, I'm like, you know what? I've been deep into my backlog. Like, I've been playing Ace Combat. I'm on Mass Effect 2. So there's a few games I'm playing. So I'm like, you know what? Just hold back, and who knows? Maybe by the time you're done with Mass Effect 3, it'll be for like $40. So yeah,
that's smart.
I really am looking forward to it, but right now I'm just really into other games. But but I'm legitimately looking forward to playing it.
Yeah. Well, you're a smarter guy than I because I still haven't finished Mass Effect 1, as you know, my favorite video game trilogy, and I'm already almost halfway through this game. So I just can't stop just opening new presents and not playing with the other ones. It's just kind of getting crazy. We won't go too deep divey here. We'll get Mike's thoughts on the next show, but just your initial early impressions of Ratchet and Clank, D.
Yeah, it's definitely a visual marvel. Like it looks next gen for sure. Like the reflections, the colors, just the how far the textures go. Like you could see so much so far out. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's so fun to play. Like I love the new topiary sprinkler that turns enemies into bushes, which just shows like all the technical details that go into this game, because how hard is it to have every single animation of every single enemy be able to turn into a bush so that this weapon is effective. It was the same thing with the Groovatron in the 2016 game, where they had each enemy was able to just like have a dance once you shot them with it. It just the guns are so quirky. Some of my favorite guns in video games, period. And this one is so much fun, and the dialogue's way better than 2016. So there's definitely an improvement in the franchise. It's perfect. I can't wait to play more. I hate that E3 happened this weekend while Ratchet and Clank and Final Fantasy VII Intergrade came out, because I just want to play those games. But here I am, gawking over or not gawking over games that haven't come out yet.
Gawking and judging a little of both, and that's what we do. Yeah, this is a Pixar animation game come to life, and we're seeing it in its full capacity. And more than just the look, it's the feel. This is like one of the games is like that dual sense makes a difference. Now I've totally, I don't have a Series X, but I've totally praised what they did this week. But without a dual sense, like I don't know if Starfield and Halo are gonna feel the way I feel when I'm playing a PlayStation game. It's just the haptic feedback and just even just the little additional effects on the speaker of the controller just makes so much difference, and just like feeling even the guns. This is a Ratchet and Clank game. This isn't Call of Duty or Borderlands, and I'm feeling like there's certain guns that feel totally different than the other one. Just pressing the right trigger, it feels like I'm actually pressing a trigger of a gun, and it's a kitty looking game. It's a Pixar looking game. So that's it. Just it's a whole experience. You don't even need VR to be immersed into this world of Rift Apart. And yeah, I mean, I'm blown away. I've never played the other one, and I kind of don't want to, because I actually watched a podcast.
It's gonna be hard to go back.
Yeah, they were like, if you're playing this, and they were like, that's gonna feel like the worst game ever after playing this one. So yeah, as you can tell by the screen, it's just colorful, and I was amazed by, and it's impossible to judge by a photo. And I put this in the chat, and I was like, I've never seen anything like this, where it's like I can see an entire whole world, which is, there's some of the portals that are cheesy, kind of like Nightcrawler type portals that you're kind of just bamfing all over the place, but during combat. But there's some where it's like a whole world, and I can see inside. And as I get closer to the portal, it's opening up to me. And as I can back up, it's closing in. It's like, no, It isn't like going in a door in a room. It's completely different, because everything is so lively back there. It's just, I don't even know how.
I wish that Insomniac Games would give that exact feature that you just described to Blooper Team, who did The Medium, because I feel like that picture you showed would have been perfect for a game like The Medium, where you could see both worlds so clearly and like all the way out. But The Medium had to make, like, we're not talking about The Medium, but like it had to make a fixed camera angles, because it didn't have that technology to be able to see so far out, which I feel like would have benefited the game. And yeah, it's amazing. The only thing that did happen, speaking of portals, is when I first played the game, when I went through a portal, it put me into a never-ending space, and it crashed my PS5, where I couldn't even quit the game. I couldn't shut down. I had to unplug my PS5. But it only happened once. It hasn't happened since then. But I hear a lot of other people have had that experience. So I'm hoping that they fix that, because that's scary to have to unplug your PS5 without properly shutting it down.
There are some physics glitches here. So I got stuck close to a stairwell or turret or something, whatever, and we're
Oh, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I smashed a million buttons and hit the pause screen and did some weird things and somehow magically got out without having to lose my advancement. Luckily, the game kind of just saves for you as you go on, so you shouldn't lose a lot of progress. But I haven't gotten bricked yet. I believe it's hard to judge how long I'm in. I think there's 9 planets, and I'm working somewhere in the 4. It's the Monk Town, I believe.
You're further than me.
Okay.
I stopped it right after
No
Rivet.
spoilers.
Right after you plays Rivet.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you're kind of, it's
really
been a little bit. You got no battle arena yet, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. So when you're done the battle arena, the original story part, go back in, and it's so challenging and so fun, not frustrating. Like a lot of battle arenas and games, minus like Yakuza, are very they're just kind of tedious and waves and hordes of enemies, but they give you something entirely different to do. Like you'll even speed rail through one of the parts of that arena, and the enemies are just so different, and they give you kind of like, they only give you one gun and you got to like kill them all with just that one gun. It's really cool, and it's challenging and fun, which is important. It's not just work. It's like I'm actually enjoying just being in this arena and doing it and getting the bronze or whatever. So definitely check that out. Man, I don't know how I can give this less than 5 whiskeys right now. Like I have to completely keep going because it just feels very classic and new and innovative and beautiful.
It's so fun.
It's memorable, and there's characterizations. I mean, we could spend another 20 minutes just talking about the story and the characters and how they interact and everything. And it could be Rivet and Clank. She's awesome. Jennifer Hale from Mass Effect, right? She's just killing it as Rivet. So that's a lot of fun. Man, I had so many things to say, but we're going to do it on the next show too.
I'm just so glad E3's over so that I can focus on the games that are out.
It feels like it just started.
It's over for me.
Where's Sony's presentation? Where's EA? July 22nd, right?
Yeah, it's
another state of play, I'm sure. I don't think E3 doesn't necessarily, it's like it goes away in name, but now that people can just have an E3 every weekend, every month, it's just gonna keep going. So but Felipe, I want your closing thoughts on this E3. How'd you feel as a whole? Because we didn't get to have you on last night for Xbox, and we don't have to deep dive into anything, but just your overall thoughts on E3, if you will.
I'm excited because of my love of Forza Horizon, which I will not shut up about. Just seeing it finally, it's back. Also, like I've always said that Puerto Rico would be an amazing setting for a racing game, and they picked Mexico, which to most white Americans, that's close enough. So, hey,
sorry,
he went there.
So I'll take it. Mexico, sure. But yeah, God, I can't wait. Graphically incredible, of course. And Sony wasn't at it, but what they showed for Horizon has me super excited. Can't wait for Halo. My wallet is crying. I will forever thank Game Pass for making everything free at launch. Thank them so much.
Almost everything.
Free-ish, whatever. I'm still paying $15 for new games, basically.
Yeah. It was like 27 of 30 games are on Game Pass or something crazy. I think it was like Diablo 2, Battlefield 2042, and like something else wasn't.
Yep.
And like we have no problem probably buying those games. Those are pretty good. But yeah, the rest are like, really? Back for Blood? That's a WB game, and we're getting that free on game. Like they crushed it. If you don't, I don't know. I don't know how Nintendo was good, but I don't know how it won E3 when Xbox gave us 27 games for $15 a month. And a lot of these are not the games that they were giving us before, the little, the indies and the unheralded studios. No, this is Bethesda games and Xbox Studio games and, big Obsidian games, big games they're giving us for right at day one Game Pass. I mean,
and not just first party, there's third party games in there too.
On the indie front, like 12 minutes, like that cast, like Willem Dafoe,
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley,
Mhm.
and I forget but it's another like the third actor is also like a huge actor.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Yeah, like on every front, Xbox just killed it this year. So
Yeah.
I can't be happier. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's sad that a lot of us couldn't be there. Xbox finally, like, you're proud to be an Xbox person. Like, I have a PS5 now. I'm waiting on the X, and it'll be a couple months away, and I'll get one for sure. But it would have been a very, very proud moment. And a lot of times we had proud moments, and then Sony showed their show the next night, and then it was like, oh well, that we were happy for a day, and then we got crushed by Spider-Man and Resident Evil and Ghost of Tsushima and all that. But this time, there's no way Sony could have stepped up and challenged this. And unfortunately, it was like E3 was kind of dead beyond their presentation. Dee, you have any last thoughts on E3? You certainly dug into most of it, if not all of it, just like we did.
Yeah, the digital space for E3 period is just not working out right now. It's like a growing pain at this point. I get with COVID and things have to be this way, but most publishers just don't know how to do conferences, and the ones that do, I think for the most part did it well. I think Xbox and Nintendo just killed it this year, especially Xbox, because like Game Pass is just you hear about it so much in like these other podcasts, and it's just hard not to talk about it. And I'm just proud that Xbox is coming in so competitively and they're being so consumer friendly, that I just can't I can't help but hope that Nintendo and PlayStation like kind of bite back a little bit, because and not for console wars, I want more consumer friendly practices from these companies. That's the only reason.
Amen. I don't have anything else to add, because next week we'll do it all over with Mike. So we'll have our big final E3 thoughts. We'll talk more about what we're actually playing in our hands in the future, and we'll talk about what's up with the Geekdom Gamescast next week on episode 40. But for now, Delilah, Dee, the assassin, Felipe, my man from the Ringside Apostles. Love you guys. Thanks for being on. This was the Geekdom Gamescast. For Travis Moody, see ya.
Peace.
All right.